Where's your hat? What are you doing in the hospital?
Did you just come to cheer me up or what?
All right, come on, let's go.
Where?
What, suddenly you're particular? Coming with me. Robin and I are getting married. We decided to adopt you.
You and Robin...
Yeah, well, we wanted to start a family anyway, and we figured this way, at least we know what we're getting. Signed you up for Little League. Don't embarrass me. My son. I'm home. Look what the stork brought us.
Hello, Robin. Danny bought me a hat.
Smart choice. Well, this is my place, and I think we'll all be very comfortable here. Would you like to see your room?
Sure.
Great.
Here we go.
There's a bed coming and furniture, and we can squeeze all this other stuff into our room. What do you think?
I don't like it.
Uncle Joe, Robin went to a lot of trouble here.
Sorry. I don't like it.
Well, we could trade rooms. Come here. Now, Danny and I will stay in there, and you can have this room. How about that?
I don't like it.
Well, you know what? It's probably just temporary. In a year or so, Danny and I will buy a house.
I won't like it.
He's great, isn't he? He's like that piece of corn that gets stuck in your teeth and you keep sucking on it to get it out, but you can't.
There's a peace far beyond all understanding. May it ever set my heart at ease. Their anxiety come, I remember that peace is a promise you keep.
Well, this morning was supposed to be the end of our parenting series, and it all timed out for it to end here on Mother's Day. And our next series was going to be Peace in the Chaos. However, life sometimes sort of kind of pushes a mashup of the two series, and so that's what I'll be doing this morning, is sort of ending out the parenting series by beginning off the Peace in the Chaos series, based on just kind of the events of my last week. If you don't know, my father went to the hospital. He was doing relatively healthy, just kind of a little slow moving, relatively healthy. Went to the hospital on Thursday, and on Saturday, things were kind of looking okay. So I told Chris, I'm good to go for this week. Sunday morning, he had taken a turn for the worse overnight. I called up Chris. I said, hey, in about an hour, I need you to preach the message for me. Here's my notes. See what you can do. He did a phenomenal job, I felt, on such quick notice, especially. He's a pro. But he continued to take a turn for the worse, and on Monday passed. And so I'm kind of looking at it, and I've got a parenting series, and I've got a Peace in the Chaos series, and so they kind of merge together quite well. And, we planned these series out back in January. We sit down, we look at the whole year, we try to think of the balanced diet that you all need spiritually, and think through what do you need to be able to sort of get through life and be able to understand the scriptures and apply them. And so we do some theological series, and we do some verse-by-verse expository series. We do some series on Jesus alone and exclusively. We do some series on things we feel like you're dealing with in your life. And so this was kind of what we had planned for this. And it's amazing how many times we'll plan something out in January, and then things in my life just sort of push us to those kind of coming true in my own life at that time. And so next year I've got some series planned, such as being faithful to God and the great and small things, what to do with your lottery winnings, praying your way into a physically fit body. God is everywhere, even on a beach in Fiji. And I'm just hoping that maybe if we plan those series, I'll have to just deal with what comes my way next year. But right now it's a merging of the parenting series and the peace in the chaos. And so I would title this morning, Honoring Your Aging Parents, or Finding Peace by Honoring Your Aging Parents, perhaps. That scene from the end of the movie Greedy. Now, by the way, that is my favorite movie of all time. And I'm not kidding, it is true. It's my favorite movie of all time, but the reason it's my favorite movie, I am not legally allowed to show you on a Sunday morning. And the reason why is because there are rules that dictate, legally in the United States, how I can show videos on Sunday morning. And I'm not allowed to show you sort of the quintessential essence of a movie. I can show you parts. I can show you parts of a movie that would not give away the plot or the theme of the movie. I have to be transformative in the way that I use the movie. So, for instance, that scene right there, you probably know nothing about that movie other than that one scene. You don't know whether that was the beginning, middle, or end of that movie. That could be setting something up, or it could be concluding something. So that's how I have to use the video. But if you ever want to go watch it on some time on your own, you can, because that movie is the best explanation of the trials God allows us to have in our life, and how that contributes to or connects with the fact that this life is about nothing more than having a loving relationship with Jesus Christ you'll enjoy for all eternity. Now, I will say there is some language in the movie, but other than that, it is a phenomenal expression of that message. But in that scene there, that greatly depicts, or is a perfect depiction of what it was like trying to honor my father. Just like that little piece of corn that gets stuck in your tooth, you just can't get out of, and it's just... Because that admonition, Chris was looking at that last week. We were talking about it sort of as parents train children. You would train your children, as it says in Ephesians 6:2, to tell your children to honor their mother and father, because it is a first commandment with a promise that it will go well with you. But that promise doesn't expire. That challenge doesn't expire to honor your parents when you're young. It continues on throughout your lifetime. It changes, it evolves as you grow up and as you move through the different experiences in your own life. That you would honor your mother and father. Of course, it changes when you get married. When you get married, it says in the scriptures, you leave your mother and father to be united with your wife. And so it changes your priorities. It changes how you show honor. For my first priority to honor is to my wife. My second priority is then to my kids, and my parents then come underneath that. And if you mess that order up, that will be a challenge. And so in the same way your parents had to teach you to honor them, oftentimes you have to then teach your parents now that scriptures have also said that you have to move out. And so that can be a challenge because your parents were used to being, well, I'm your top honor. Not now, Mom and Dad. Now you are below that. And so while, yes, Mom, I need to call you and tell you Happy Mother's Day, my first priority is to honor the mother in my own house, the mother of my children, and so I need to show her honor, and that is my first priority today. And so I will honor you, Mom. That takes second to the honor I have to show the mother in my own family. And so we sometimes battle with that because our parents are used to being that top spot, and they don't like to give that up sometimes, and it becomes a challenge, if you will. The word honor in Scripture literally means the weight, or to add weight to, or give weight to. And in an economy in which a scale is how they determine value, picture you go to the open marketplace and you're buying anything, they put it on a scale, see how much it weighs, and that's how much it costs. I bet the only thing I think we do that with today is gold. I don't know anything else. Maybe gold, silver, if you ever go into a pawn shop and you're looking to, or what?
Vegetables, the thing you don't like.
Oh, vegetables. I wouldn't know. I guess if that's... I hear you do that for something. I don't know is there a scale at the store? I don't know what they do with that, but I'm going to stick with gold. Something that actually is valuable. Maybe I'll change my tune sometime later when health becomes an issue, but to add weight to means to give value to. And so if you are going to honor your mother and father or honor your spouse, you are giving value or weight to them in your life. You're saying, you are this important to me. I value you. And so you're showing a value. The things that you value are things that you set apart, the things that you protect, the things that you're able to enjoy, or the things that you want to spend time with or to take care of in a special way. It means to give that weight to. And the question comes up is, how do you show honor to your mother and father without dishonoring your own spouse or dishonoring your kids? How do you show honor to your mother and father as they age? And to answer that question, I want to go over to Romans chapter 12 and look what Paul says, because in there he uses one of the one another's in Scripture. The very last time that Jesus was with us on this earth, he said to love one another as I have loved you. He talks to his disciples this just at the Last Supper before he goes and dies on the cross later the next day. And so he says, love one another just as I have loved you. And then what you'll read in the New Testament is that the New Testament authors then use some 60 to 100 different interpretations or explanations of what it means to love one another just as God has loved you. And so you'll see things like, so to exhort one another, to encourage one another, to forgive one another, to bear with one another. Well, one of these one another's, as we find in Romans chapter 12, there's actually several one another's in the passage. All I want to focus in on, though, is he begins off with honor one another. And so honoring our mother and father isn't the only place where we honor. We are also to honor one another. And these are all expressions that Paul is trying to communicate to the Romans. He starts in chapter 12 and he says, therefore. And the therefore is basically saying, therefore, in light of the gospel, in light of the love and the grace that God has shown you, this is how you are to treat one another, that you should treat one another in the same way that God has treated you. And so one of those things is to honor one another. And as we go through this list of things in chapter 12, I'm going to be kind of pulling out some of these and applying them to how you would honor your aging parents. Lost my train of thought. It happens, though. What I want to do is just apply these to our parents. And so he starts there in verse 9, and he says, love must be sincere. Hate what is evil, but cling on to what is good. So love must be sincere. Romans chapter 12, verse 9. Is it a fair statement to say that we can always find a reason to not love someone? I mean, if you think about people, we are hard to love, right? Our sinful nature makes us hard to love. The sin that comes out in our life and expresses in our life, I've said oftentimes that sin will make you miserable. And when you are around somebody, or to the degree to which you're with somebody, united to somebody, or proximity next to somebody, their sin will make you miserable too, right? So if you have a sinful boss, they're going to make you miserable. A sinful coworker, they're going to make you miserable. A sinful teammate, they'll make you miserable. Sinful kids, they'll make you miserable. Sinful wife or husband, it'll make you miserable. Sinful parents, makes you miserable. So the degree to which, or that you are in proximity to someone's sin, it will make you miserable, which means it's hard to love people. Which is why so oftentimes when we're talking about our aging parents, you'll hear people say, well, I love my parents, but, right? I love my parents, but I don't know. I don't have time to do everything that they want me to do or to live up to their expectations. I love my parents, but we just disagree on so much. We have different values. Or I love my parents, but they just don't understand the kind of the times we live in and where we are nowadays. I love my parents, but in light of their behavior, or the things that they are doing or have done, or the comments that they make, or I love my parents, but I just don't have the energy to deal with them right now. It becomes hard to show them honor by continuing to love them. And I think one of the keys there is that next piece, and it's kind of odd that he puts the words love and hate right next to each other. Like, how do you say love someone, and then the very next word is hate? Love must be sincere, hate. Well, that doesn't. How do I love somebody at the same time there's hate involved? But it's as if he's saying, listen, love isn't the sentimental hallmark card that we often make it. It's not as simple as just loving and loving and loving. And because we love, it just covers everything. I know love covers a multitude of sins, but there's still sin there. And it doesn't mean that we love the sin or embrace the sin or welcome the sin in. He says love must be sincere, but hate what is evil and cling to what is good. I don't know if there's any better descriptor of the outcome of our dual human natures than this passage. What I mean by our dual human natures is that if you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, you have two natures. You have your natural sinful nature, which is prone towards lust and greed and envy and revenge, and I'm going to get them back for what they did to me, and critical comments, and only thinking about yourself and completely self-focused, self-centered thoughts. But you also have this redeemed, supernatural, spiritual nature that's within you as well when you come into a relationship with Jesus, which longs to be like Jesus and to show love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and have all kinds of self-control. And so it's kind of depending on which me you get at the moment. Sometimes you get my spiritual nature, and sometimes you get my sinful nature. And if you're living with someone or in close proximity to somebody, over time you'll get both. And as I've been sort of sorting through grief, now grief is a very complex emotion. It's complex and difficult for a couple reasons, one of which is the fact that fortunately we don't experience it often. However, it is completely unavoidable in life. If you have a close relationship, you will experience grief. But since we don't experience it very often, typically, we don't have a lot of practice at it. And so when it hits us, we're trying to have to sort of relearn it for the first time. It's like that, if you do something only once every 10 years or once every 20 years, you're like, well, it's been a while. I'm kind of unfamiliar with this. So that's kind of how grief is. And so I'm sort of revamping up the experience of grief. It's complex because people are complex, and you're struggling with this issue of loving them yet hating what was evil. And the challenge of grief is to hate the evil but cling to what is good, and to be able to sort those things out. Because in the process of grief, especially with parents, there is no perfect parent. Okay, there is no perfect parent. This is a day that we celebrate and honor our moms, and in a few weeks we'll celebrate and honor our fathers for all the good that they did, all the wonderful things that they did. Yet for some of you, it can be hard on a day like today because you are so overwhelmingly confronted with the not-so-good things too. It's because there's no perfect parent, right? All of us are flawed, and sometimes it's hard to realize that your parents are sinful people too, and they have selfish streaks in them. And with all of the altruistic, loving things that our moms and our dads have done, there's also that piece of them that is still sinful. And so the challenge that you have every year on Mother's Day, Father's Day, and throughout the year is, will you love and cling on to the good, or will you cling on to the evil, to the sinful part? Is it possible for you to hate the evil and cling to the good? Later in this series, this whole series is supposed to be about, and we'll get there next week, I trust, about what I call the chapter of mental health, the biblical chapter of mental health. In Philippians chapter 4, Paul just spits out tons of passages. I mean, if you've ever gone to Christian counseling, I would be willing to bet that there's a good chance within about 3 sessions or so, your counselor will quote something out of Philippians chapter 4 because there's so much good stuff in it. One of the passages in there most notable is Philippians 4:8, which is all about clinging to what is good, where he says, "Finally, my brothers, whatever is," if I can find it in my notes, eventually I use my notes, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, whatever is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. If you're struggling with your mom, or in a couple of weeks with your dad, I would encourage you to cling to what is good and what is true and what is noble and what is praiseworthy and what is admirable, what is lovely, what is right, whatever is excellent or praiseworthy, that you would cling on to those things, and you would allow that to fuel your honor for them in your life. Because if you hold on to the evil, you're going to find it very difficult to honor. And so we must cling to that which was good and right and pure and lovely, and think on such things. A few verses down in Romans chapter 12, the next admonition I'd give you, or next encouragement I'd give you to honor your mother and father, is where he says, be faithful in prayer. Now, let's face it, there are some parents which are so prickly it's really hard to pull them close. And that's why prayer is such a wonderful thing. No matter the distance, No matter how thorny the spines are, you can always pray for them. You may not want to, but there's no excuse not to. You can always pray, to be faithful in prayer. The question you have to ask yourself is, do you believe that God has the power to change someone? And if so, then why not ask him to do it? Prayer will change how you view your parents. It is one of the greatest tools that you will have in your life to begin to see somebody through the lens that God sees people through. It is very difficult to hate the people that you're praying for, but to faithfully pray and to lift them up in prayer. And then the next verse he says, practice hospitality. Let's face it, that's not always easy. Maybe that's why he says to practice it. Now, I know I'm misusing the language there, but it's just funny. Practice means to do, not to, go out and, practice it to get better. It actually means to do. For me, this has been difficult over the years with my father. There's been long stretches where we have hardly had any communication at all. There's been, abuse in various forms to both me and to those who are under my care. Like I said earlier, it's, I can't honor my father at the expense or I cannot honor my father to the extent to which it means I'm dishonoring my wife or my children. And so those two things have sort of been at odds over time, and so it's created the need for boundaries. Now, I'll tell you, nobody likes when you set up a boundary any more than your neighbor likes when you put up an 8-foot privacy fence and block their view. If you set up boundaries with your parents that are necessary for the safety and security and the peace of your own family, they're not going to be accepted well when you first start construction on said boundary. They're not going to be respected typically when you first start construction. For me, this was a challenge, this practice hospitality over time. It was a challenge because when they would come in town, I couldn't have my dad stay with me for a while. There was several years where having him sleep in my house was not compatible with the peace in my own house. I mean, if you can't have peace in your own house, you have no place where you can have peace. And to the extent to which you can control that, you must control that for the sanity and the sake of your family. And so there's not a given that your parents stay with you, even if they gave you the down payment for your home. That does not mean that they have exclusive hotel rights to your house anytime they want to come or go. It doesn't mean they get a key to your house to barge in whenever they want to come or go. There was a season, fortunately it was just a season where they couldn't stay overnight. There was a season when we would go visit. It was limited to less than 48 hours. Sometimes in-laws are like leftovers. They go bad after a couple days, right? And so, I don't know, things, you wear out the welcome and somebody gets a little too comfortable and all of a sudden sort of the facade and it's so good to see you, it's so great. You can only put on a show for so long before your true nature comes out. Is that a fair statement? And so, part of, hating what was evil is sometimes meaning leaving before the evil comes out, and so there was those boundaries that were set up. But it didn't mean that I didn't have a heart to long for the hospitality. And just because the ways that I wanted to show hospitality are the ways that, some of you may be sitting here going, well, I just can't believe you wouldn't let your parents stay there. I don't know what I would ever do if my son or daughter said I couldn't stay at their house. Every family's different. Is that a fair statement? Okay? And just because either you can't ever or you can't for a season practice hospitality the way other families can or the way that you want to, doesn't mean that you shouldn't continue to look for opportunities to. And so even though there was times where my father was banned from my house and that I refused to go to his house, it didn't mean that I didn't have a heart for this and wasn't looking for a way to do this. And ultimately, I found a way to converge both a goal and a priority for my own immediate family with my desire to show him hospitality. When he moved here to Virginia Beach, it was at the same time that I was wanting to establish, my kids were getting close to that age where they'd be leaving home. And I wanted to sort of fertilize the ground such that the roots were so deep that they'd want to come home for life. I wanted to be able to cultivate a family bond that I didn't feel was as strong as it needed to be. And so we started making what we called family dinners a priority. And so I would cook a special meal. I would go out and spend a little extra money. It wouldn't be ground, some new way to present ground beef or chicken. It would be, No, this isn't hamburger meat, it's hamburger helper. It helps make it cuisine, right? Now, I went all out. I'd make a special meal that night, use a little bit of extra flavoring or seasoning, whatever, and I would set the table real nice, and we would do something special, and oftentimes we'd have a game afterwards, play cards or something just as a family, and we would look for a night that worked with everybody's schedule so that we could have our family dinner. We made it a priority. Sometimes it meant that we canceled some activities or we didn't go to a certain activity because it became a priority for us to have it, if not every week, at least 2 or 3 times a month. We made this a priority. And that we found that was a great time to invite Dad over. It was controlled. It was for a set time. We had the boundaries set up, and it was just a really good time and allowed my kids to get to know him, for better and for worse. To talk about my childhood and things I grew up and the way I've tried to parent differently and how I've let them assess how I've done that, good or bad. But it really allowed me to sort of finally find a good outlet to practice hospitality in a way that I'd always longed to, but for so often couldn't. And so I'd say, even if you're going through a season where you can't, may your heart always be that you're looking for an opportunity to practice that hospitality. Then he goes on a couple of verses later and he says, "Bless those who persecute you, bless and do not curse." Now, I'll let you know that the word curse there does not mean to use foul language. Whether you then take that as a license to say, oh, well, the Bible doesn't say I can't, or whether you just sort of, move on to a different place. But to bless or to curse, in scriptures, those are words that mean what you want for them or what you wish for them, right? And when somebody is mean to you, as, let's face it, in a way sometimes that only parents can, right? All words hurt you, but the parents' words can really cut deep because every child longs for their blessing from their parents. What your parents need from you is honor. What you long for your parents, whether you acknowledge it or not, is you long for your parents to bless you. Which is why even though your parents may be grumpy and bombastic, you still want to say, Mom, look at our new house. Mom, look at the coffee table we just bought. Dad, look at the new TV. Hey, check this out. You just want them to go, wow, that's great. In the same way when you brought home a good report card, you said, Mom, Dad, look. You wanted their blessing. And because you long for their blessing so much, when they either withhold it or give you the opposite of it, it's a real hard blow. And it can be a real challenge of your thoughts towards them or your wishes for them. And then your sinful instinct is going to want for karma to really take effect, if it even exists, right? You do bad to me, God, get them. And here he says, bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. And for some of you, maybe the challenge on Mother's Day like today or on Father's Day in a couple weeks is that you don't want God to bless them because you're angry or bitter or frustrated over your past hurts or the comments that they've made or the things that they've said. But remember, what Paul is talking about is not in light of what they've done to you, bless them. No, he's saying in light of the gospel, in light of the love and the grace that God has shown you. Paul has spent from chapter 1 to chapter 11 explaining in thorough detail one of the best doctrinal explanations of the gospel and the ramifications of it. Paul will talk earlier in this book about, I do what I don't want to do, and I can't seem to keep from doing the things I don't want to do. Who can free me from this? Is there any can God truly forgive me when I continue to do the stuff I don't want to do? And he says, thanks be to God, for there is no condemnation in Christ Jesus. But I keep on sinning, and it seems like no matter how much I sin, God's grace always increases more than my sin. And so what he's saying by the time you get to chapter 12 is not in light of the way they've treated you, but in light of the gospel and the love and the grace that God has shown you, bless those who persecute you, bless and do not curse. Honor them. Love them. Practice hospitality with them. Pray for them, not because of what they have or haven't done right, but because of the gospel. This is an extension of love one another just as I have loved you. And then he ends off, and this is where we come back in to tie into this peace message. Verse 18, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with all people. Don't overlook the fact that there are 2 conditional clauses to said peace. We want peace. Right now there's a whole People are rioting all over the country. Peace, 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 peace in the Middle East, peace in the Middle East, peace in the Middle East. Ceasefire, ceasefire. There are always conditions with peace. And you have to be able to agree on said conditions. If it is possible. He's acknowledging sometimes it is not possible. I know some of you right now are not at peace with your parents because sometimes it's just not possible. Maybe you've set up the boundaries and the boundaries have been violated again and again and again. Maybe you have a parent like I did who just said, well, I will do what I want to do. And I'd say, okay, you can do it on that side of the fence. You can't come over to the house at all, period. And there was no peace. And my name was trash, and how could you as a pastor, and how could you as a son, and every single accusation you can imagine. But when you come in my house, and it's like, it's not like it's like a bull in a china shop, You just wreak havoc and run roughshod over my kids and over my wife? No. It is not possible right now. And if your conditions for peace are, I am who I am and I'll do what I'm going to do and you got to deal with it, okay, sorry. There is no peace. That's what it is. And the second thing he says, as far as it depends on you, you shouldn't be the reason you don't have peace. It shouldn't be because of your attitude. It shouldn't be because of your bitterness. It shouldn't be because you're unable to forgive. It shouldn't be because you're the jerk in the relationship. It shouldn't be because you still have demands and expectations on your parents that they still mommy you and coddle you and give to you everything you demand out of them. And you whine and complain because you want a new house and you need them to give you money to afford said new house. And they're just not a good parent because they won't give you everything you want like they used to when you were 5 years old and they bought you everything you wanted. Okay, whatever the reason may be, it shouldn't be because you are the reason preventing it. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with all people. The key for me finally making peace with my dad is, it goes back to those dual natures. The love must be sincere, hate what is evil, and cling to what is good. I finally came to terms with the fact that my dad was never going to be the dad I wanted him to be or the father I wanted him to be. Some of you still have a hope or expectation that your mom is going to be that perfect picture of a mom. That going to the card store on Mother's Day is going to be easy for you. That you'll find just the card. But every card you look at just goes, I don't feel that. I don't feel that. I don't feel that. Right? You read that? Like, oh, no. I had to come to terms with the fact that my dad was never going to be the man I wanted him to be or the dad I wanted him to be. But I had a choice. Do I accept him as he is and put up the boundaries to protect my family as I need to and love him for who he is or not? And that's what I chose to do. I just chose to continue to love him. To the extent to which it didn't put my family at risk or my own sanity at risk, I loved him. And that wasn't always easy. And why is it that I have peace now that he's gone? Because I feel like I was able to do that. I don't think I would have the peace that I have now if I hadn't been able to find that peace when he was alive. And it was difficult. Right down to the last day. His last coherent conversation with us. If I can indulge, I just have to get this out. I'm out of time, but I have to. The man's literally on his deathbed. My niece is about to graduate from the U.S. Naval Academy. We're all excited. We're going to be going up there for her graduation. And just as we're just sitting there, this wasn't a part of the conversation. We're just sitting there, and he's just thinking of things to talk about. My sister and I are there. She flew up to be with him. And he folds his arms. He goes, I was very disappointed in the invitation I got sent for her graduation. And my sister just goes, and we're both in this place. She goes, all right, Dad, tell me why you were so disappointed. I am eager to know. And he just went in and just criticized everything about the entire invitation. The invitation that was the standard invitation that the Navy bookstore provides for families to send out was not up to his standards. The detailed itinerary that he demanded that was in there, that was so extensive, it even had all of the handicap accessible parkings and amenities throughout the entire week of events, was not up to said standards. And on and on and on. Karen and I joked, we said, well, it's good to have one last trauma bond between us before he passes. And yet we still cried when he died and prayed with him as he went to go be with Jesus. Because we honor our mother and father. Not because of them, but because of the gospel and because of the love and grace that God has shown us. We join as we close our time in prayer. Father, I thank you for your grace. Oh, your grace. Your grace which somehow finds a way to love the conflicted person I am within. Both the desire to do what is good and the desire to do what is evil. The desire to do what is right and the desire to do that which is vindictive. The desire to do all the things that Jesus Christ would do. And the desire to do all of the things that I'm ashamed of. And yet your grace is upon grace, and it covers all my sins. To the extent to which I say, Father, how could I ever repay you for all of the love and the grace and the kindness that you've shown me? To which your scriptures simply say that you would love one another just as I have loved you. So, Father, may we find the fuel to love and to honor our mother, our father, and everyone else, not because of what they have or have not done, but because of what you've done for us. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.